Hello and welcome to Empowered. My name is Loren Spagnuolo, and today is going to be the first of many series to come. This is going to be a program focusing on health and wellness. And my first program today is going to be with Bonnie Davis. She's the founder of Family Continuum. We're going to be discussing craniosacral therapy, and she's also an attachment specialist. Thank you for joining me today, Bonnie.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start off by how you discovered this path for yourself.
Well, I actually have a background in dance and theater, and somehow I found my way into, I've always had a fascination between the connection between mom and baby, and what makes that connection, and how can we best support families. And so I started writing one-woman shows about breastfeeding, and then slowly that led me into the field of working with families.
Wow, that is interesting. Yeah. So from a one-woman show to this life of healing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so how did it evolve from there?
From there, I did an attachment therapy training. That was about 10 years ago. And then I became a craniosacral therapist. And now I really bring in all those different modalities and work with families in that way, and also work with individual adults.
So how did you come to that understanding of attachment therapy? Where did that intuition come from?
Well, again, my fascination just with the mother-child bond, but the research right now on the neuroscience of attachment and all that we're learning about infant development, it's a really burgeoning field, and it's giving us a lot of insight into how that attachment forms, how early that attachment forms, and how important that is. How our early experiences in life really shape us
as adults.
You know, like the first 2 years, we really are forming the foundation of what everything else that is to come. And so I support families in that first primary period to have the best, most healthiest start that they can in life.
Okay, and what's missing today? Like, why do you think that we're a bit disengaged and disconnected?
Yeah.
In cities mostly, would you not say?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a big question. I think there is a lot of disconnection. I think there is a lot of isolation, and really not enough support for families. And I think also just the way that our technology is speeding up, you know, all the time. We're connected to our phones and our laptops and all these devices that take us away from real connection, and they take us away from presence, you know, from really being able to be with each other.
Right.
And I see that with families all the time. I see moms breastfeeding their babies and they're on their phones, you know, and so I'm there to help them see the importance of really connecting and being present with their children in a way that I think we're losing some of that. Certainly in our North American culture, you know, in other cultures, there's still a real bonding connection. But.
Are you able to introduce this sort of in the current medical system that we have?
Slowly.
Yeah.
Slowly. I've gone into hospitals a little bit and just explained how attachment works. But I think it's going to be a slow process. But the thing that we have in our favor is that there is all the science right now to prove it. You know, it's like what mothers have known for centuries, the importance of, you know, a strong bond and strong attachment. But now we have science that can come in and say, yeah, we can now prove that, which is a great thing, because that's how I'm able to share the information.
Let's talk about the mother. Because you know, often we're just making these choices because we think we're supposed to be doing things, and one of those things is, I think I'm going to have a child, or
right.
you know, with a partner.
Right.
So you know, not only are you considering this attachment theory, but you've got to deal with this individual being here, this woman who's not often, and it starts there, right, at her. And so, are you not also dealing with, say, generations of thought processes and behaviors and beliefs?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And how do you bring that into your practice, or do you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do support adults to do their own work, and especially I think it's really beneficial for partners to do some of their own work, to unravel, unpack some of their own history before they actually conceive a child, so that they're not bringing then their history and having that influence the child, because the new field of epigenetics is showing us that we're influenced by our history. We're influenced by our ancestry. And so there may be even things, there may be unconscious themes or unconscious patterns that follow you, throughout your family life. And now they're able to actually prove that.
Right.
Like there's tons of studies. They did a study through what happened during the 9/11, and those mothers that were pregnant during that time, and then they looked at the stress that actually got passed on to the children who were in utero, the babies who were in utero at the time that 9/11 happened, and those babies grew up to have a higher stress response.
Wow.
And now they're able to track it through back to grandparents. So it's an amazing new field that's really showing how our ancestry is also influencing us and how we can unravel that, before we conceive a child, so that we don't bring all that to a new being.
Right. So we'll get back to that in a minute, the attachment stuff, but I wanted to talk about the craniosacral therapy work as well, because that's part of your practice as well.
It is, yeah.
And if you could just explain what that is for our guests, and why what initiates someone to come and see you in the first place?
That's a good question. Craniosacral therapy is a gentle touch modality. So someone lies on a massage table, fully clothed, and we touch different parts of the body. And why it's called cranio is we're working with the cranium, and sacrum, we're working with the sacrum. So what we're doing is we're working with the nervous system, working with the autonomic nervous system and the central nervous system. So the brain and the spinal cord have what is known as cerebrospinal fluid that bathes your whole central nervous system. And what they've been able to discover about that fluid is that that's where the real health of our body lies, is in that fluid. So no matter what kind of disease or anything that's going on, or disruption that's going on in our system, there's this health that lives beneath it. There's this blueprint of health that's always there. And so that's
In
what
the fluid.
in the fluid.
Okay.
And the fluid has, they actually have tides that are very similar to the ocean. So they're either moving quite quickly or the tides slow down, and that's what really settles your nervous system. So it can be used from anything from migraines to anxiety. I work with people who have anxiety and depression.
Right.
But I work also with babies to unravel their birth history and birth patterns that can happen if the baby's had a difficult birth experience. Then I work with the mom and the baby to help unwind that, so they don't have to carry that imprint into their life.
Is craniosacral therapy, if we're speaking about babies, would one ought to consider it, like a parent consider it, even if they had like a healthy birth?
Sure.
Regardless of
Absolutely, because birth is very compressive. That
Right.
baby's cranium has to come through that pelvis, and there's a lot of compression, and the body's meant for that. But
Right.
the bones can sometimes overlap and then not come back into their original place. And so I always recommend just a wellness visit
Yes.
of craniosacral. Even
Right.
if you had a home birth and everything went really well, it's always good to have baby checked on.
Wow, very, very interesting. Okay, we're about to take a break.
Okay.
And we'll come back, and thank you so far for joining in and tuning to Empowered Health.